Welcome to Action Energy Market Global podcast. My name is Tarja Teppo. I'm the founder of Action Energy Finance. In this video podcast, we interview people that work with clean transition. We highlight solutions and stories behind them and explore project financing options utilized. All right, and today we got to the studio Iiro Kankaansyrjä from Kapasity. And am I pronouncing that right or wrong? Capacity. I mean, what's your take on the capacity?
Well, the pronunciation is bilingual because, it's a wordplay with the word capacity. So whenever it's in English, I say capacity, but as it's spelled with K and S in the Finnish version, in Finnish we say kapasity.
Yeah. No, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
But okay,
yeah,
super.
Both are correct.
Okay. Iiro is the CEO of Capasity and also founder entrepreneur at the firm. And why don't we start with your personal story? How did you end up where you are today?
Well, it's a very long story, but to keep your long story short, I found my entrepreneurial spirit when I was selling actually detergents from door to door, which is quite a story itself. I started that when I was 15, so during the secondary school in Finland. I incorporated that to be an actual LLC during upper secondary school. So I've been an entrepreneur for quite a while, and that sort of lit the spark to be an entrepreneur inside me. And of course, I was following my father on the side, have been doing that for quite a while, who was running the family business at the time. He founded Capacity in 1984. Over 12 years ago, we developed a plan how I could take over the business or immerse myself into the business to see how it's like, if I like it, and whether or not to actually take it as a serious plan for my life to run it. And I'm on that path. That's
cool.
what brought me to waste management and recycling.
All right, so this is a true family business.
Yes.
So that actually sort of creates a nice bridge to what is it exactly what Capacity does? I know it's around waste management, but you have your own waste management solutions, own hardware. Am I right?
That's correct. So Capacity Group owns a whole bunch of different corporations, but basically the heart of all operations is Capacity LLC, which is a Finnish family business, and that all the staff and personnel is in that business. And that's the business which owns all our facilities. I'm actually in our production and headquarters right now. There are compactors and other waste handling equipment made on the other side of that wall. So that's where our production is. And we produce most of the stuff and hardware that we sell or rent. So Capacity sells and rents machines. We import machines. We do maintenance on the machines nationwide. We have some business in Sweden as well. It's relatively small yet. Really looking into growing the exports side of our business. And the special thing about our business is the concept. All the machines that we import or manufacture ourselves, all the machines need to be able to be factory overhauled later on. So say after 10, 15 years of usage, all the machines that we produce need to be factory overhauled. This is something that I talked about in the Epicenter event. It was a story and actually a quite hard time for our business, which sort of pushed us, made us develop the business as it is today. It's this direction. So, which was a rental business, and during the 90s recession, which was especially hard for Finland, we had to come up with a way of getting the secondhand machines, which were returned to us from the customers which were bankrupt. So a third of our rental customers were bankrupt in the recession of 90s, and we had to get the machines going over to new customers in order to create a revenue stream for us, in order to keep the business alive and breathing. And the only way to do that at the time was to give a new machine's warranty to the secondhand machine. And
Yeah. How is it?
that was
I
the way
mean,
out of
this
it.
is, yeah, that's actually really intriguing. That, if you think of even in recession, waste is being produced. So you said
Hmm.
that 1/3 of the customers of that time, they basically kick the bucket. So is it a certain sort of phase of the waste management process where your machinery comes in, or was it just that the overall economic activity, industry output went down by so much that 1/3 of the waste management companies, one would think that waste management is really sort of a recession proof business, but what actually
I,
happens there when
It
sort of
it is
it's
it is, but it's a combination of both. If you think about 90s and the profile, what kind of companies were renting waste handling machinery? Most likely the businesses were small businesses who
mm,
were not able to afford to actually buy a compactor or a baler or shredder or whatever piece of equipment it was. So our rental customer profile was very different from what it is today. So today, 60-70% of all the machines that we produce and import are effectively rented out to customers.
mm,
And the profile of our customers is very different than what it was 30 years ago. Because
right,
30
right.
years ago, the customers who bought the machines were, solid businesses who had been doing business for quite a while. They had a
Mm,
proper, uh, solid balance sheet, and their business didn't suffer so much about the recession. But of course,
mm,
it was a really hard recession. But during the 90s, waste management as a business, it didn't collapse. It was certainly tighter. If you look at the statistics, the amount of waste did uh, ultimately decrease a little bit, but it was like, it stopped growing and
right,
then went again. And
right.
that's super hard times for economy when the amount of waste is not increasing.
Right, then you know that you're in a really deep doo-doo. So
Yeah, exactly.
if
Which is
no
kind
waste
of
is
sad.
produced. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because now we're in a situation where we have to decrease the amount of waste and increase how much is recycled,
Exactly.
regardless of what's happening in the economy. There's
Yeah,
no alternative.
yeah, yeah. The what you mentioned, I guess these are current figures. So 60 to 70% of
Yes.
the customers, they are renting the machines.
Yes.
So and part of those or some of those machines you manufacturing yourself. Some of them you buying from outside.
Yeah.
It's probably a combination, and
Yeah.
then so is it a monthly service, or is it sort of like, because you said that you actually sort of in the core of your business is basically taking secondhand machines and refitting them, rehauling them, right, and then
Hmm.
renting them out again to sort of new businesses. So you could say that within the waste, you're trying to minimize the sort of the growth of waste in the actual sort of waste management machinery itself.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's true. The way it works, we buy a lot of our machines back from customers who brought them. We purchased it last year. We purchased uh, at least four machines which were made in 1996. So
Oh my goodness, that's
yeah,
like
and they were factory
almost 30
overhauled, and
years, and they're still
yeah,
working.
yeah, especially
That's
that's it's amazing, and it feels funny and warming to see those old machines coming back to us and then being factory overhauled. It's like time traveling when you
mm,
go into the machines and remember, oh, this was made back then, and a company was facilitated there, and we had these people working in the business at the time. But it's very different from anything else that I've seen in all of business industries, and I like it
yeah,
so much. And that's probably what brought me into the family business
yeah.
and into the waste management, which sparked recycling agent.
Right. So basically, sort of what you mean by that is that the actual industrial machinery can be used for such a long time and can be sort of
Yeah.
rehauled, can be
Yes.
reused. So
Yes.
it's, if I understand correctly, it's basically sort of so what's your typical customer like? How does the customer look like?
I'd say it's business which is in wholesale, logistics, or manufacturing some product. It could be a hospital as well, or another facility like a harbor. Could
Yeah.
be a hotel or shopping mall as well, or
So,
just a large commercial real estate building, which is
right.
producing waste. I'd say that the traditional break-even point where leasing or purchasing a compactor would be economical is approximately 40-50 tons of waste per year, regardless of
Okay.
the waste fraction.
Okay. And how does
Yeah.
it work in this business? I mean, you provide the compactor. So that means that whatever, cardboard boxes, whatever it is what they are producing, you can press it sort of to
Yeah,
a smaller space.
compacted. Yes.
And then what happens there? I mean, what happens after that? I mean, do you also take care of the actual sort of waste handling, or you basically provide them with the machine? They can sort of have the waste truck or whatever it is come by less often to pick up that compacted waste. Is that how that works?
Yeah, that's what happens. We haven't traditionally been involved in the waste management's operating side of
Mm.
things, but that's what the startup does, the recycling agent. So that's involved there because we've over the years, as we've developed, not developed, but delivered machines to customers, and 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, when I joined the business, I started looking at the actual costs, the actual waste management costs, and the unit prices, which our customers were paying for their, haulage and tonnage. How much they're paying for a ton of mixed waste being processed, or REF, or how much money are they getting for a ton of cardboard that they produce, or
Mm.
plastics. And it didn't take so long that we noticed that there are actually great differences within the market, within the players in the market. And even if customer A gets 30 euros per ton of cardboard, the next customer next door, even though they are using the same waste management company, is getting a better price or a lot
Mm.
lower price without any logical explanation. But that's how markets work, as you know. And in waste management, there is a great unbalance between the customer, which is the waste producer, and the waste management company. And that,
Mm.
of course, works in the benefit of the waste management company because they get to profit from this unbalanced
So
information
yeah,
situation
so
here.
so if I'm getting it right, so Capacity is making the machines, but then you have, what's the name of the company? Recycling Agent.
Recycling agent. Yeah.
So the recycling agent, is that sort of the agent on behalf of the waste producer, so to say. So the
Yeah,
capacity customer,
exactly.
right? So
Exactly.
so is it more like it's sort of finding the best deal for you
Yeah.
among the
Yeah.
waste
It's a
management?
platform which does
Yeah.
exactly that.
All right. So
And
what sort of so this is, you said that this is the startup. So is this is your brainchild. So this is what
yeah,
you've started, and
yes.
so tell us about that. So you notice this sort of market opportunity, that there's not enough information among the waste producers. What would be the best possible option? So it's almost like sort
Yes.
of, are you taking FedEx or are you taking UPS type of thing?
Yeah,
So
pretty much.
hmm.
And where you could use a combination of FedEx and UPS, because
All
that
right, all
works
right.
too. Yeah. And
So
our
yeah,
platform.
how does it work from the customer perspective? So if the customer is thinking, could we cut down on the waste management costs? So how does the process start?
Well, it's very, very simple.
Mm.
We have a platform which uses AI to get its data. So all the customer has got to do is sign a contract with us. We start with reporting, and the customer tells its waste management company or waste management companies, in case if there are several waste management companies producing services to the customer. All they have to do is just inform the waste management companies that from day X, let's say, for example's sake, from 1st of April, please send your electronic invoices to this e-invoice address.
Mm.
And that is the electronic invoice address from which we receive the invoices. We read them with our AI algorithm and pump up the data to our cloud platform, where the data is normalized and displayed on a nice dashboard. And from there, the customer is able to see how much they're spending on the waste management, what's the average price, how much carbon footprint is emitted due to their waste management processes, how much is the transport, etc. All the data regarding their waste management produced by a third party, which is us. So
Right.
we're objective with the data. And from there, we can see pretty soon, say, because waste amounts differ in the course of 1 year. So there are different seasons, like Easter in shopping malls, Christmas is a huge season. It's a waste festival, as you know. So we want to go through those seasons and looking at the customer's data so that we can see the actual amount. And then we can start reallocating the waste streams.
And what does that mean? Does it mean like you sort of take, so with your platform, I assume it's the AI doing it and sort of observing that, hey, here's somebody who's producing, say, a lot of cardboard waste versus some other type of mixed waste. And maybe it would make sense for them to use provider A for the cardboard waste and something else. Is that how that works? Or
yeah.
All right. So what sort of savings? Say that if you are a, I don't know, say a supermarket chain or something like this, I'm assuming that would be rather typical. I mean, they're producing huge amounts of cardboard boxes and all sort of other packaging material. What sort of savings? I mean, through your platform, how would I say, where are the biggest discrepancies in the business? Is it just that people have not paid attention to it before, or that it's just the waste amounts vary a lot, or is it more that the waste types? I mean, where's the biggest discrepancy where you can actually bring then benefit for the customer that, hey, here we have identified that you really should make a change?
There are a lot, and the size of the discrepancy depends on mostly the location. Well, it's a combination of location where the waste is being produced and how much waste is produced, and of course, which waste fraction it is. So is it cardboard or is it bio-waste? So typically, if a customer has a waste profile, we talk about waste profile. So they produce a lot of bio-waste, cardboard, plastic, RAF. That's where we can, assuming that the customer has got its processes around waste, I mean recycling, and how they're sorting the waste, assuming that all the waste fractions are sorted correctly. That's a different scenario, we can go there. But assuming that they are sorting out correctly, these are the waste fractions from which we can create the most savings. Universally, doesn't matter where we are. But when it comes to the normal scenario where there are some errors in sorting, we look at RAF, which is what we call energy waste here in Finland. Usually, out of energy waste, we find that there is 15% of that is still cardboard. There is up to 40, maybe even 50% of different plastics, which could be sorted out and taken to a special facility, which is able to process mixed plastics waste, which is not this Finnish yrityspakkausmuovi, but mixed plastics. We already have facilities here in Finland which are specified to handling and processing mixed plastics. And there we can create very good savings that can be up to 70-80%.
Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I guess, I mean, especially for those businesses who generate quite a lot of waste from packaging or something like this.
Yeah.
So there's big savings to be made. So how does it work? Is it more like an ESCO model in a way that, you sort of you observe these things through the platform, through the AI, what could be done? Is it also that you then actively you provide this information to the client, or you basically take over as an agent and sort of handle it for them, or everything above?
Well, that's per customer, however
Mm,
however they want to do it, because some customers still want to hang tight on the processes of the waste
mm.
management. Some of them don't want us to go out there and educate their staff on behalf of them. Some of them want to be with us, or some of them want to do it, the actual education, because they feel like they're the ones that should do it. It's however they want to do it. But regarding price points, that's a contract matter. So we have contracts where we make suggestions. We're a proactive partner in waste management, and the customer gets to decide what they do, and they can either conduct them on their own or have us do it for them. And then we have contracts where we do everything, and where we just,
Turkey.
yeah, exactly,
Okay. All
exactly.
right. So, if I understand right, you're now operating this in Finland, but does this go beyond the Finnish borders? Is the recycling agent, is this something you are aiming to take well
Yes,
beyond the Finnish borders? Or are you
yes.
already operating somewhere else?
We are currently not operating outside Sweden, but certainly will be operating outside Finland. So Sweden
Hmm.
is something that we're looking at right now. We have customers now in Finland who operate both in Finland and Sweden, so that would be a natural way for us to expand in Sweden. I know the market quite well. There are a lot of uncharted areas for me in Sweden and in Europe, but because it is a family business, the machinery side has been a family business. So I've been abroad in Europe since I was pretty young, and I know the players over there on the machinery side, and they
Hmm.
sell machines to the waste management companies. So I know the
Hmm.
stories and rumors and who's doing what and who hasn't been doing something and
The whole
all
waste
that.
management mafia, right?
Yeah, sort of. We're lucky that it's not a mob, at least in Europe. But and
Mm.
another thing, this funny waste fact, which still surprises people, that actually Europe is the biggest waste management market in the world. It's a lot bigger than the US because of,
Really? How
yeah,
can
it
that
is.
be?
It's not because of the tonnage. Of course, the United States produces actually more waste than Europe, even though we have a lot more people than they do, but it's because of our regulation around waste and how we have to recycle here. So
Oh, you mean
effectively,
as
we are
as the
able to.
value of the market, it is bigger. That's what you mean.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
exactly,
All right. All
exactly. So
right.
we are able to create a lot more value out of waste than the Americans traditionally have. But I reckon because they have such so much more dynamic market in general than
Mm.
Europe has got, they might overtake us in the next 10 to 15 years. We'll see about that. But speaking of American waste management market, they're huge. I mean, absolutely humongous con is that there is absolutely no standard for transporting waste over there. So we talk about this roll on, roll off
Yeah.
chassis. In Finland, we have the Russian standard, which is
Yeah.
also in Estonia and in the Baltics. But in the United States, there is no set standard. So it is per company.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's wild. That's
Yeah,
wild.
that's wild.
Doesn't make it very efficient
Yeah,
in
it's
that
it's
case.
hard to compete if you don't if you're not able to use the most common standard, which is waste management, the company called Waste Management Standard. But this
Yeah.
is getting off point, but that's a funny
Yeah.
niche about the American market.
I understand. Well,
Yeah,
as sort of concluding sort of a question, the because clearly, I mean, we generate so much waste in the world, right?
unfortunately, we do.
And but some of it can be, and large part of it can be utilized, through
Yes.
recycling in sort of energy generation, so forth. What would you say, if you would need to pick one thing, either it's lessons learned or the biggest misunderstanding about or biggest missed opportunity in the waste management sector? What would it be? Like from your
That's a
personal,
good question.
you could sort of, make your choice.
That's a good question. I'll think I'll follow my traditional analogy with waste management. I think waste management as an industry and as a function for companies, for waste producers, is the most overlooked area of any business. And what I mean by that, if we go back in time and go to 1850s, and we look at crude oil and the oil consumption around the world, we go into US, where the annual oil consumption was less than 2,000 barrels.
Mm.
And if you had a farm in Midwest and you found oil in your well, you knew your decade was absolutely ruined because you didn't do anything with the farm. Because oil was considered waste.
Yeah.
And if we rewind 70 years into 1920s, where the oil consumption in the US was over 135 million barrels, and same scenario, you would know immediately that you are rich. I mean, your money, your earnings
You're sitting
guaranteed.
on a pile of gold, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what's going to happen to waste. And it won't take 70 years. It will take 5 to 15 years because we can't afford it any longer. So there will be a time when we dig up our dump sites and start, recycling the materials that we find that are still able to be retracted from those sites.
So I guess at that point, the recycling agent becomes the recycling banker, right? So
yeah. Let's see.
Fantastic. Hey, Iiro, this was great. Thank you
Likewise.
for sharing the story of Kapasity and also Recycling Agent, the company that you're building, the platform that you're building. Anybody who wants to find, we will obviously put these into episode notes as well, but the where do you actually find recycling agents? What's the because the Kapasity is capacity.fi, right? But the recycling agent, is it under the same site, or where do people find it?
It's under the Finnish domain, which is kind of a word monster.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Super. Okay, thank you, Iiro, and
thanks for having me.
Best of luck in expanding to the markets outside of Finland.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. To follow future episodes, subscribe to our newsletter at www.actionenergymarket.com and select Action Energy Market Global Service. We publish new episodes on Fridays. If you are a technology provider or developer in the energy or clean infrastructure area, add your solution to our solution bank.